welcome back to Honeyacres Homestead. As you can see, I am knee-deep in planning our future garden for this year. I have all of our seeds spread out. I've gone through and I've picked all the different varieties, organized them by type of vegetable and flower, and it's all here on my, well, mostly here on my coffee table. I have all the vegetables here. I also have a stack of flowers and a stack of herbs that wouldn't fit and they're underneath the table. So with all these different varieties of plants that we're hoping to grow, this takes a lot of planning. Each of these things needs slightly different environments and starting times, and there's just so many things that you need to keep track of when you're planting vegetables and herbs and flowers because they're all a little bit different. My plan is to try a lot of different varieties since we're really new here on this property and we really only got to plant a few things last year. I wanted to kind of spread a big net, cast a big net over lots of different varieties of vegetables, and I know some of them will stick and we'll enjoy them, and others of them we probably won't repeat next year. So this year is just a big variety here as we really fine tune and find our favorites amongst all these different varieties of vegetables. So we have a lot of work to do here, a lot of work to get all this potential food to turn into actual real food that we can harvest and bring into our homestead. But step one is giving these seeds a good start. Now each of these seeds has different needs as far as when they should be started. Should they be started indoors? Should they be started outdoors? And in order to keep track of that, I just have developed a series of lists that I wanted to share with you. And hopefully these will help me to get through the planting season without missing any details and sabotaging any of these vegetables or flowers or herbs. So the first thing that I needed to do is I needed to check what zone we're in. We're in zone 7A here where we live, and that means that our last frost for the year is around April 24th. So once I knew that, now I could really break down when to start these vegetables. I found it helpful to make a list of all the weeks leading up to the last frost because some of these need to be started fairly early. Like right now, I could be starting some of these seeds because we're about 10 weeks out from our last frost. So I wrote all the dates leading up to the last frost, 10 weeks before, 9 weeks before, 8 weeks before, leading all the way up to April 24th. And I used this a lot to reference when I was writing down the dates to plant these vegetables and get these seeds started. So this was my first step. I was making this list of the dates. The second thing that I did is I went through and I wrote down all the different varieties of plants that I was hoping to plant this year. So it's quite a list. It takes up several pages. Then I went and I looked either on the back of the seed packet, or if it was missing from the back of the seed packet, I looked it up online. When do I start these seeds? Do I start them indoors? Do I direct sow them outdoors? And how many weeks relative to the frost before or after do I need to start this seed? So once I found that information, I just wrote it next to that vegetable. So for example, on the ground cherries, on the back it says start indoors 6 to 8 weeks prior to last frost. So I wrote down that information on my little paper here next to ground cherries. When I had completed this very extensive list of all the different things with their start times, it was then time to transfer it over to a master plan. And that is what this is. So I started this right now. We are week 10 weeks out from the last frost. So I flipped through my pages and I wrote all the seeds that I need to be starting right now. And next to them, I wrote if they need to be started indoors or outdoors. At this point, nothing's really going outdoors, but as I go further in the future, week 6 is when I plant my peas and my spinach outside. So next to each plant, I write, am I putting it inside or am I putting it outside? And this way, I don't have to look at all of the seeds at once. I just have to look at what do I have to do right now. So week 10, these are the seeds that I should be planting within the next week to get them started inside so they can get a good jump start on the growing season. Another important thing to write on here is, do any of your seeds need to be cold stratified before planting? There's a couple, especially herbs, there's a couple herbs and flowers that really benefit from being put in the fridge for a couple weeks to 30 days before you plant them. And this kind of simulates the natural cycle of those seeds going through winter time and will stimulate them wanting to sprout and grow for you. So that is another thing I wrote on here. For example, I really am hoping to grow some really nice poppies this year. Baker Creek has some really cool poppies, and I have 3 different varieties I'm going to try to plant, but they do benefit from being put in the fridge for a few weeks. So that I'm going to go ahead and do that probably today or tomorrow, get those started in my fridge, and always making notes on this so I don't forget about them in my fridge, and also so I can keep track of how long I've had them in there. As I plant things, the very last step that I have not been able to start yet is I will write down on a calendar, like a garden planner, garden diary, garden journal, whatever you want to call it, when I started those seeds. And this will be helpful for future reference. If I find that maybe the seeds needed more time indoors before it was time to plant them outside, or maybe they grew too quickly inside and I couldn't put them outside yet, maybe I need to shorten or lengthen that time before the last frost date when I actually start them inside. Also, it'll just keep a good record of all the things that we did grow this year, and it'll be helpful to see what was successful, what was not, and maybe what we could do differently in the future. So this is all very exciting to see all this wonderful, colorful vegetable seed on the table, but I know it's a lot of work and a lot of steps to get it to the point where it actually means something. So I'm going to be getting started on getting the growing medium ready in the next day or two so I can get some of these seeds started and be putting them indoors under some grow lights that we were able to get and use last year. But we also are in the process of getting a greenhouse. Peter was able to go and help a friend of his who was buying out a nursery, and Peter went and he helped him disassemble some of the greenhouses and was able to, his friend gave him one of the greenhouses in exchange for helping him out. So we have a greenhouse that we will be able to pick up and rebuild here on our property, and that will be very exciting, and it will allow us to not have to exclusively use the growing lights, but we'll be able to take them more in an outside sunshine environment and grow them there. And also it'll allow us to grow some things that we can't usually grow here, being that we do have a longer, colder winter for some different varieties of plants. So the greenhouse will be very exciting. Until then, I'm just gonna grow these under our grow lights that we have in one of our buildings, and I need to get started really soon because, like I said, we're only just under 10 weeks out from the last frost. And as you can see on this list that I showed you, there's lots of things that need to get started this week. So I have a lot of work ahead of me, but I'm very excited. I'm feeling optimistic that we will have some good produce here grown on this homestead. If you haven't started gathering seeds yet, it's not too late. You have time. A lot of these things can be planted right now, but you can also wait a couple weeks while you're getting your things together, getting your seeds, getting your pots, getting your soil, and don't let the fact that we're getting close deter you from just going for it. I hope that this was some way, I hope that this made sense. It makes sense to me, but I hope it also somewhat made sense to you. I like to plan things, and I'm hoping that this plan does work and we're able to have some good success here on our homestead. If you're planning on growing things, I hope that you have good success too this year. And as we're all looking forward to spring coming, I hope that you're able to get your seeds started and get that garden underway as well. Thanks for spending this time with us here at Honey Acres Homestead, and I'll see you next time.